Okay, so I've added the automation to the drone sound there, so sort of low pass filtering, making it more prominent at different stages of the arrangement. You can see what I've done here. That's the frequency and this is the resonance. Okay, so now I just want to do something about, I'm going to delete this sound here, but I'm going to do something about the sine beats because it's not really, the pitch is too dissonant for me now. I think all I need to do really is play with the pitch. So if I warp it, I think Complex Pro for this kind of sound will be good. It's the most kind of powerful intensive warping algorithm. I think it needs to come down. Ah, there we go. That's much better. I like the way that it fits in now with the heavily filtered stab sound. And I'm happier with that now, just as a kind of outro sound. But for the rest of the track, it doesn't need it at all. Great stuff. So now we really need to work on this sequence sound here. Okay, so I'm going to go completely back to the drawing board with that kind of sequence sound that we had. It's just too weak for this kind of track where every little sound is exposed. And it's good to really push yourself. If you keep trying to work with something, you can maybe convince yourself that it sounds good, but you really just need to ditch it as soon as possible. Make a decision and get on with improving it. So I've gone back to numerology. I've got my 6/8 sequence running, so it's going to be a similar kind of thing, but I'm going to choose a very different synth. This is Waves Codex, which is a wavetable synthesis. It should give us a very digital kind of sound. There you've got your two wavetable oscillators, and I'm just going to go through some presets basically, see what takes my fancy as a starting point. Let's make sure it's receiving. So let's go through some of these. Yes, not a bad sound straight away. It's got the kind of digital texture that I want. But we have a lot of room down at the bottom of this track. Even though we got that huge rumble, there's no bass line. That's one of the things about these tracks. They don't have bass lines because that's what the rumble is there for. It's a bit too ravey. It's the right idea though. That's quite nice. Let's look for something a bit more subliminal though, something that's really buried in the mix. That's a classical kind of sound, but I want something a bit more odd and there we go, something subliminal like that, that's really powerful as well. I really like that. So we've got looks like a notch filter here, so we should get some variation. Oh yeah, that's really nice. Okay. That's perfect. Okay, let's keep that. And let's set up the automation for the cutoff. Oh, lovely sound. Really like that. Okay, so that is fantastic. Let's start this all the way back from the beginning. Excellent. Now what I'd usually do is record it like that, and then so I can tweak the automation and record some audio, but to save time I'm going to quickly just route the output of that straight away to an audio track so I can capture the audio as I'm manipulating it right now. So let's start from the beginning. That's so much better than the sound we have. It's the kind of sound that you could kind of have throughout the whole track, but have some periods where it's really subliminal. The real test will be when the stab comes in. Here we go. So what I like to do at this stage of the mix, or the arrangement rather, is just picture yourself in one of those huge warehouses or huge dance floors. Picture yourself on the middle of the dance floor as that filter starts to open on that stab sound. Build up the tension with the clap, and that shaker should come in to relieve the tension. There we go. You got the subliminal kind of opening up of the drone as well going on there constantly. As you're dancing, your brain's not really separating these elements now. It's all kind of coming together just as an entire experience. Constantly changing this notch filter to get various textures on this sound. Little mini peaks and troughs there in the energy of the track. Little dips, little mini breakdowns. You can probably hear, because my vocal level is probably quite high because I've got it really loud in the headphones. As I say, I don't usually work with headphones, but during this stage, even though I mix incredibly quiet, I think it's important to mix as quiet as you can. When I'm doing the arrangement, I really like to feel the music as well as hear it. You see that breakdown? It might be tempting to put like a reverse cymbal and a crash there, but for this kind of underground sound, there's It's probably a bit too much detail. These kind of tracks generally work back very stripped. Nothing too obviously planned or arranged. So I like to keep it quite simplistic and raw when it comes to adding little details. You can prettify these tracks too much and they lose their impact. Right, what I'm going to do here is switch to a low pass filter. Okay, I think that sounded better without that switch, so I will remove it by then anyway. It's just a little experiment there. We can just fade that gently out. As the sine beats comes in, our new sound will fade out. Okay, so we've got our sequence much improved. Let's call that bass sequence. Oh, I'm far happier with that now. Anyway, so that's the basics done. Let's get rid of these. And I think we can probably do a really long fade on this sound here to give that drone plenty of time to come in. Okay. Right, we're ready to do the next stage of my process, which is probably very different to how most people do it. I would imagine the majority of people probably carry on in this session and will now mix it. They'll balance it up and everything. I treat it a bit more old school, as if I'm giving it all the parts now to a mix engineer. So what I'm going to do now is export everything. Make sure I select all individual tracks and it's at 96K and normalize everything. And I'm going to export everything into a folder and then you'll see what I do next.
If you like this course, why not head over to sonicacademy.com, where we have hundreds of complete track builds in every genre imaginable, including all the project files and samples. You'll also find tutorials on plugins and synths, mixing and mastering, over 250 tech tips, artist interviews, along with our award-winning plugins, samples and preset packs.